So today I'm having the honor to sit down with Pie-Pacifique, who I didn't even ask Pie-Pacifique, where are we speaking to you from?
South Africa, Johannesburg.
Johannesburg, South Africa. Well, it's a blessing to have you on. You are our first of many collaborations with WRP, Whitten and Roy Partnership, who I spent time with both Scott and Roy and Dylan, one of the consultants last year. So it is just, again, a blessing and honor to have you on the Y blog with me this episode.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for inviting me.
So Pie-Pacifique, your background as I know it is has many ups and downs and turns, and from physics to coaching to now speaking all over the world with different things happening in between. But I would love to hear your story, your journey from you.
Yeah, thank you, Luke. I am from Rwanda. So many people, when you say the word Rwanda, they remember the movie Hotel Rwanda. And yes, it is in that little country in the middle of Africa where I was born, in a politically active family. And not long after my birth, my father was arrested and became a political prisoner for a few years, in and out. And for the first 5 years of my life, basically, he was not there.
Wow.
And after that, in 1985, when he was released, I spent about 4 years getting to know him, and he died in 1989. So I was 9 years old when it was just my mother and the three of us, the children, a younger brother and a younger sister. And in 1990, the war started, the war that culminated into the genocide in Rwanda in 1994. Now, I was 9 when my father died. I was 10 when the war started. And of course, it was such a polarized society. We started hearing about Hutus and Tutsis and who is who. And now these Hutus and Tutsis are the tribes of Rwanda, which in many people's opinion, it's actually, which I share, by the way. Rwandans share the culture, the beliefs, the history, and yet there was something. The one thing that separated them is that one group called themselves Tutsis and the other Hutus, and they found the reason why it would be a conflict. Now, as a 10-year-old, there was nowhere to hide from it. It was everywhere. Now, my family being considered Hutu, but at the same time, hearing all the time that we actually have features that are not Hutu. Like, I was told several times that I can't be a Hutu with fingers this long, because these fingers belong to Tutsis. And, that I'm too tall and my arms and my thighs are too long for a Hutu. And at the same time, I will be told that I cannot possibly be a Tutsi with a nose like mine, because my nose is too flat and too broad for a Tutsi. Now, that might sound superficial and sometimes difficult to understand for most people, but people were killed just for the way that they look, because they were either believed, suspected, or were considered to be one or the other.
Yeah.
Now, I was 14 actually 13, was before my 14th birthday when the genocide started. Now, this is a time when I personally, as a child, witnessed a lot of things. I saw people I knew that I had seen growing up killing people I knew that I had seen growing up. The only thing that was the reason was that they didn't belong to the same ethnic group. Mm. Now, personally, in our family, unfortunately, my father's political history was interpreted as um, an act of treason for the government of the time. So we were considered Hutu, but traitors. Mm. So what that meant was that we were on the lists of people who had to die along with the Tutsis during the genocide. And they sent people to kill us. They did come, soldiers, and they killed people at home. They threw a grenade in the house. They shot my mother in the eye. I was saved by neighbors. I was the teen. Now, I remember this night. It was a long, long night in which a lot of things happened. And then it was followed by 3 months of witnessing literally almost every day somebody killed or somebody being killed, and I was the witness. I was a witness. Now, at the end of the 3 months, we all had to leave the city because as wars happen, the rebels who were attacking the country were taking over the city, and so we all had to leave. And we walked through basically ambushes where people would stand on the side of the road, and I'm saying people deliberately because if I say soldiers, it just, there's something that is taken away from them. Mm. With a machine gun and shoot in the crowd that's moving out of the city. And we are in there. And so I've seen literally, it starts with this insane calm kind of atmosphere, and suddenly people start dropping. And then you hear people screaming as they realize what's happening. And then you hear gunshots. And then you realize, oh, actually we are being shot at. But you don't know how to run. You don't know where to run. It's one of those things. It's hard to survive because you don't know how. There's nothing you can do to survive that, except that either you do or you don't. Mm-hmm. And I've been in situations like that. And then we didn't leave. We didn't go to the Congo like most of the Rwandans did. We came back into the country. There were many refugee camps in the DRC at the time in the mid-90s. It's probably an event that many people would remember. We came back into the city of Kigali, finding our house completely looted. So as a 14-year-old boy now, I had turned 14 along that journey. Mm-hmm. I had to become a breadwinner for my family because that's the way we were going to survive. Yeah. So then I started a series of small businesses, which I did very successfully as a small business boy. So I don't say a small businessman. Right. And then I accidentally found my way back to school. Accidentally, because my why for going to school was not to stay. My why for going to school was to get a a sort of identity document in the form of a student card that I would use on military roadblocks across the country as I go to rural area markets, because they were giving me a very hard time without any sort of paper.
Yeah.
I didn't have an identity card yet. But a series of coincidences led to the situation where I had to pretend to be a student for a long time. And 2 weeks, I mean, 2 weeks was a long time at the time for me. But those 2 weeks were enough for two of the teachers convinced me to stay. And the conditions for my family were changing. My uncle was helping. And so I went back to school that way. Then discovered science, had a passion for science. And a few years later, my younger brother, was only killed in 1998. My uncle was kidnapped 3 weeks later. He disappeared. He was the one who was basically in the family through a lot of things, including paying for my school fees. Then about 3-4 months later, my mother was arrested and she was taken into custody, which was in a military camp. Fortunately, we knew where she was, which was very helpful. Now, I was alone at home with 8 children, my younger sister and cousins, and one family friend's child that I was supposed to look after. And I was also in my last year of high school. So having to juggle all of that.
Yeah.
It was a time of great learning for me, a lot of lessons, and time that I have been reflecting on much more recently in the past 3-4 years as I was looking back at my past and seeing, where do I come from? How did I come to be who I am? And that period where I had 8 children to look after and I was the 9th features a lot in my thoughts, because a lot of things took root then.
Yeah.
So my mother comes out of jail. She then says, look, I lost your brother. I don't want to lose you. Now it's time for you to go. She had told us to go for a long time and we resisted. So I eventually had to leave, not just for me, after a lot of resistance, I must say, but for the family. Leave Rwanda, get to Tanzania, be received by this family, which was supposed to be a family friend. And then I was sent some money from home, and the very same people who received me stole the money from me. This money was going to serve as a tool for me to be able to go to the West, to the US or Canada or Europe, and they stole it. I was left with $300, which I decided, now I need to go to Madagascar. The choice of Madagascar was simply because it was the nearest French-speaking country I could think of where I can go, be a refugee, and attempt to go to university. I didn't know much about Madagascar other than it's French-speaking, and I didn't believe that my life was possible in a non-French-speaking country. So I left Tanzania to Mozambique, looking for a way to go to Madagascar, and I didn't find a way to go to Madagascar. In Maputo, I met 2 strangers who changed my life. One of them showed me a place where there was an internet cafe, because I wanted to send a message to my family to tell them I'm okay, only to be told much later on that at the time when I was sending the message, my mother had been told by the people in Tanzania that they had successfully sent me to Canada. So she was happy, but for false reasons.
Yeah.
It was in that internet cafe where I met somebody who said, look, you will not be able to go to Madagascar. You will not be able um, to go to Swaziland, because I tried and it didn't work. So now it's time for you to go to South Africa. So going to South Africa was a difficult thing for me, because I had a lot of reasons why I wouldn't make South Africa a destination. The xenophobia, a lot of things had been said about South Africa, particularly about Black people not liking Black people from other African countries. Racism from the white people here, and also the fact that I couldn't speak English, couldn't defend myself. And so for those reasons, South Africa was not an option. But it was this man, the Congolese man, who said, just go. I know people who live in South Africa. Things are not as bad as it sounds. Just go. He gave me a phone number of a friend of his who lived in Durban. And so I went to Durban as an illegal immigrant in South Africa, called this man, and then he said, okay, there's not much I can do for you. I will hand you over to the Rwandan community. So I handed me over to the Rwandan community. Then they showed me how to legalize my stay by applying for asylum, and then how to survive in the city of Durban, literally becoming a car guard. So a car guard is somebody who stands in the streets or in the parking in car parks to guard them, and if you come back, you find your car safe, you may choose to give them a tip or not. So that's how I started living in South Africa, watching cars in the streets. And then during that time, I made a series of decisions, one of which was never to get a place for me to guard that I call mine, because that means you have to guard it. Otherwise, there people will take it, but then you're trapped because you have to guard it the whole week. That means the whole week you are there. So I decided to do something else, which was only to watch cars during the weekend. And where, during the week when people ask me to look after their places, when they have other things to do. That time, I used the time I had then during the week to fight for my papers and fight for my place to go to university. And I went to the university. At the time, it used to be called the University of Natal. Now it's University of KwaZulu-Natal. Studied physics, finished with a degree in physics, and then got employed by a bank. That's how my professional career started, as a business and systems analyst, which I did very well. I really progressed very, very quickly. I will blame the physics for that. And then eventually I discovered this desire to work with people. I can do systems and processes and numbers and analytics and all of that very well.
Yeah.
But my natural inclination is to work with people.
Yeah.
Learning life skills and passing them on, listening, talking. And so I sought an opportunity to do that. And that's how I left the bank. I went to a training company as an account executive. Well, basically a salesperson, learning how to sell. And my clients ended up being financial service providers here, including my former employer. It was a great time for learning for me, learning sales skills, interpersonal skills, relationship management skills, all of the skills that a consultant needs to do what we call life consulting or management consulting. It was really great for me.
Yeah.
I did so well for about 2.5 years, and I saved enough money to stay at home without work for a year. And I thought, if I don't stop now and take time to reflect on my past, when I don't have any problem regarding income or money, then it will be difficult for me to do it in the future. So I made a decision to take a sabbatical, which was a very good decision for me. Then I was thinking, I was writing a journal for a while. And then some people who knew me, they said, look, come, give us a few days of your time a month. We do consulting together, and you are still on sabbatical. That works. So it was good for me because I saved enough money to extend my sabbatical by another year or so. And then the result of that was that I wrote a series of books, the first of which is going to be published in a few weeks' time. So I will be sure to let you know.
Congrats.
And then at the end of my sabbatical, I found WRP, because now I was in love with consulting and the sales skills that now I had learned. And one of the things that I did that really, really changed my life was being part of a program called the Motor Life Program, which was co-founded by Roy Whitten and another business partner of his in the early 80s. And this program changed my life in so many ways, because I learned tools to support myself, to listen to myself, sometimes listen to what life is trying to tell me. It's a beautiful program that I worked in for about 10 years or so, working with Briggy, among other people. And so that's how Briggy and I connected, and she said, I'm doing great things with WRP. And so combining those life skills, training tools and ability that I had, and then the sales background that I had just acquired, it was just a perfect fit for me. But in addition to that, and this is getting me into the next question, was that they were offering me the geography that I wanted to work in. I had made a decision that my next job is going to be in other African countries, because I want to know how it works, how it feels like to work in those countries. Because in the future, I want to make it my home, Africa. It's my territory. It's where I will be working, not just in one country. And so WRP offered me that, and Southeast Asia, which was helpful. So I wanted Africa, they gave me Africa and Southeast Asia, which is important. So that's where I come from, Luke. So you're welcome to ask any questions. One note I would like to make is, and I'm saying this because it's very fresh in my mind, because in the past 3 weeks, I've had 2 events which were completely separate, and they asked me to explore the issue of identity and complexity of identity and diversity, and from a personal point of view. And I chose particularly few aspects of my life to reflect on and share with them. And one of them was this boy who lived without a father for the first 5 years. And then this boy who learned about the polarization of society, Hutus and Tutsis, etc. And just embracing, finally sharing with them how I had to develop compassion for that boy and get in touch with the boy and say, it's all right. It's all right. It's then, you are now here. What now? What do you choose to do with all of that? And of course, developing a lot of admiration for the business boy, and the boy who went to school, and the boy who took care of 8 children, and it was a lot of things I developed admiration for. the car guard who eventually went to the university. And joke about actually watching cars of students outside of the university gates for weeks. Eventually, just dreaming of one day having this card to take me through the turnstile gate so I can see what is inside. Eventually I did. So it's just all these aspects of me that I came in touch with, and some I celebrated, and some really required a higher level of heart opening, I would say, so I can embrace this child again, so I can say it's okay. So yeah, that's been my journey, Luke.
Beautiful. Just what I sort of felt just all the way through, and you and I briefly talked about this prior to our conversation here, was your movement towards human connection, and for me, hearing that you took care of 8 young kids as a kid yourself, and having to learn and connect with them, and then moving from country to country and being able to just connect with different people, even when you may not have spoken the language. I can feel that from you, that passion for human connection, and can certainly understand from that perspective what may have moved you into the consulting world. But behind all of that, and for you right now, Pie-Pacifique, what do you feel like your why truly is in this moment?
So there is a lot. There's a lot that I have witnessed that became great lessons for me. And one of the lessons is that life happens, and the way we interact with it is a choice for us to wake up or to remain asleep to something. And I did this over and over again with small events, and then eventually took time to explore the biggest events that happened. And I'm thinking, is something that I can get from that? And inevitably, I got a gift. Now I know I can say, in those dark hours, there was light too. There was a great blessing. And the why now is so I can share what I found when I chose to wake up and see what is it that is the highest, or what is the best of me that life is calling out through these things that life has given me. And I want to share that with the world, not only to share what it has done for me, but actually invite the human beings that I'm going to be interacting with to do the same. Look at it. You may not like it, but look at it. It may be for you. In fact, it is for you. And when you get through the other side, we will meet somewhere. And that's my why in my work, in my entertainment activities, in my prayers, in my meditation. That's what I'm after. Is how do I keep coming up and up again through what life gives me, that now I see are blessings, and how do I invite humanity to do the same? I want to tell my story differently. I don't want it to be the sad story of a survivor or a victim or that's not what it is about. What it is about is a story of beautifully packaged gifts from life, even in moments that my human mind can say this is unacceptable. Yet when I say, well, actually it happened, let me see what is in it.
Yeah.
I get to see the gift in them.
Yeah.
So that's my why.
That's beautiful. You know, what comes up for me is you know, what you're talking about is really just finding the blessings in the breakings, you know, finding that little bit of light, a little bit of light. Sometimes it's only just a little sliver, but that's the beauty that we can hold on to. In times of darkness, that can be very hard. What do you have, you know, some sort of mindset shift or a habit or a conversation you kind of work through for yourself that others can maybe adapt for their own dark moments to find blessings?
Yeah. Very good question. And I must say my habit and my way of dealing with it now comes from the fact that I have had first-hand experience of discovering things by looking at what happened in the past. And inevitably, there was no time when I didn't discover something that was for me, that was propulsing me forward and up. And here is now what my learning is. When something I don't like happens, I have now this fundamental conviction, it's beyond faith now, that in this, there is something for me. And what happens is that I start developing gratitude for what is happening. What I want to move closer and closer to is to be grateful even for things I don't like while they are happening.
Yeah.
Because that's the, you know, retrospectively, I've done it over and over again. But can you do that? Now, that's a practice, because all I need to do is to remember this too is for me. And the operating word is for. It's for me. And when I develop gratitude for it, my quality of being in it changes. The people who are in it, I see them differently. The unfolding itself becomes a gift rather than, you know, even when there are still decisions to make and things to do, I know that in this is something for me. And so the practice is remember that. And in some way, that goes back to the practice of self-remembering, because it's when I remember myself in those moments that I develop the ability to remember it. And self-remembering is that Roy Whitten developed this split attention tool. I don't know if you heard about it. Is, just pick something about me physically that will remind me I am here, without losing touch with what's going on around me. And it's when I do that I usually remember the most important things for me to remember. And one of them is this tool is for me. That's a practice. Thank you for asking that question, because it just, as I'm sharing it, I get even more excited wanting to, you know, do it over and over and over again, because I know what is at the end of it.
And what you're really bringing up for me, I have to just be honest with you. I can feel that energy. I'm almost in tears because of my excitement. You know, I can feel your excitement. And while you were doing that, I remembered about split attention and talking to Roy and Scott about that. And I started to do this small practice where you rub your fingers and you pay attention to your fingers and what that feels like. And I am, because of it, more in tune with what you're saying. And then at the same time was like, I remember why I'm here. in this conversation and the beauty of it. And it just, I absolutely, oh my goodness, it's so much fun.
Yeah.
I love your answer with that. And Pie-Pacifique, I feel like I could talk to you all day. This is such a fun conversation, such a beautiful journey you're sharing with us. But as we come upon our time here, where are you taking your why next, or where do you feel maybe your why is leading you? You mentioned that you have a book coming out soon. Where do you feel that it's maybe leading you? We don't necessarily know what's going to happen in our future, and we don't necessarily know where our path is going. But in your deepest feeling right now, your deepest heart, what do you see there?
Now, my intention now for the future, I can speak to that. I don't know what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah.
My intention for the future is that I want to reach out to more human beings around the world with the same invitation to what is available for them in their own lives.
Yeah.
It's like there is so much to actually really embrace in our own lives, irrespective of what is happening. And my role in it is going to be just sharing what is so for me. And where I'm going with that is I want to keep interacting and learning a lot in the world of work, in consulting, management consulting, and all of that. I want to do more of that on the continent. It was one of the places that I think sometimes it's kind of conversations is not welcome or perceived as not welcome is in the workplace.
Yeah.
And I want to do more of that, working with people to see that it's actually, we are humans, whether we are at home, at work, in bed, we are the same.
Right.
And so that's one of the reasons why I want to share it in the form of the book, but also life skills training, as well as, of course, speaking to more and more people around the world. And this is in the foreseeable future what I want to do. And that's where my why is taking me now. I'm like at the verge of something,
It's the threshold of something new, right?
Threshold, and now I think it is time that I reach out to more people, because now I feel ready for that now.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, I hope that this could maybe plant a seed for that part of your journey, and for others to be able to reach out to you and be able to connect with you. Are there forms of social media or ways that people can connect with you after listening to this podcast?
Yes, one is to find me on Facebook, Pie-Pacifique. Most of my things on my profile public, so you can connect with me, Pie-Pacifique Kabalira, that's on Facebook. And on Twitter, I'm P Kabalira, Kabalira, P Kabalira, at P Kabalira. And when I have other ways, I will be sure to share that with you.
Cool. Well, great. I will make sure to link those in the show notes. But just again, Pie-Pacifique, thank you so much for being willing today to sit down and authentically, through love, through connections, share your story.
Thank you so much for inviting me. And as we started this by saying just at the beginning, this is new. It's like it's for me. After this, I'm going to take a few minutes to reflect on what did I say, and every time, what is usually it's in conversations like this that I reconnect even deeper with that part of myself. wants to go
Yes,
out there.
yes,
So I'm really,
yes.
really so grateful for this.
Yeah.